In the blistering heat of a forward operating base, a lone woman moves through the hangar. Sleeves rolled up, eyes fixed on her work. The 30mm chain gun of an AH-64? Apache gleams under her steady hands, every motion precise, deliberate. To everyone else, she's background noise. Just the armory tech, unseen and unremarkable. Then a decorated pilot strides in mid-conversation and freezes. His eyes lock on the faded patch stitched to her sleeve. Black and gold, old and classified, the kind of insignia whispered about but never shown. His expression shifts, casual indifference giving way to stunned recognition. Word travels fast. Officers appear, veterans stiffen. Some step back without knowing why. Others salute instinctively, though she never notices. She doesn't look up, doesn't speak. She just keeps cleaning the gun, as if the whole base hasn't suddenly remembered exactly who she is. Which city are you tuning in from today? If this story struck a chord, hit subscribe and join us for more untold military stories. Dawn over forward operating base Vanguard. The desert's edge still holds the night's chill. The air crisp enough to bite. When Lieutenant Colonel Maddox Verran steps into the yawning aircraft hangar. No one else is here yet, no footsteps, no voices. Only the faint hum of sodium lights overhead and the silent, hulking shadow of the AH-64 Apache waiting for her attention. She's always the first one in, always. The 30mm M230 chain. Gun stares back at her like a coiled predator, inert but never harmless. She draws her toolbox closer and begins the methodical ritual she's repeated more mornings than she can count. Piece by piece, the weapon yields to her practiced hands. Every pin, every housing, every feed chute removed with the precision of muscle memory. Her face is unreadable. Her movements are economical, without a single wasted motion, but her eyes, sharp and restless, flick now and then to the hangar's open mouth. Always watching, always listening, then voices. Distant at first, carried on the cold morning air. The solitude fractures. She keeps working, though the rhythm changes slightly as the first sunlight pierces the high windows, dust motes swirling in gold. The young mechanics arrive in a pack, loud with the kind of energy that hasn't yet been burned out of them. Something about last night's barracks trouble sends them into fits of laughter. One of them spots her, elbows his friend. "Morning, General Dust Mop," he calls, tossing her a mock salute. The others laugh. Verran doesn't look up, doesn't flinch. The chain gun remains her entire world. Only the faintest shift in her shoulders, so slight it could be imagination, betrays that she heard them at all. When she reaches for a specialized torque driver, the sleeve of her uniform pulls back. A small scar flashes on her wrist, deep, deliberate, and of a kind no machine could have made. She rolls the sleeve back down without breaking her rhythm. 7 months at Vanguard. Before that, 5 at FOB Condor. Before that, Joint Base Reynolds. Always in support, always in the background. She wears invisibility like other people wear rank. A squad of pilots crosses the hangar, their boots clanging against the steel deck on the way to the briefing room. Not a glance her way. She's just part of the landscape. The racks of tools, the fuel hazard placards. Necessary but unseen. Lunch in the mess hall. She takes a seat alone. The clatter of trays and smell of overcooked eggs filling the air. A sergeant sets his tray across from her, meets her eyes for less than a second, then picks up and moves to another table without a word. She keeps eating, scanning the room the whole time. Not paranoid, just aware. The supply depot. She's halfway through handing in requisition forms when a young lieutenant steps up beside her, cutting her off mid-sentence to ask about his own order. The clerk immediately abandons her to tend to the officer, leaving her standing there, paper in hand as if she never existed. Back to the hangar by early afternoon. The noise of tools, compressors, and distant rotors fills the air. Captain Kalen Stroud, the hangar's commanding officer, strides toward her, clipboard in hand. He's young for his rank, carrying the coiled tension of someone still proving he deserves the brass. "Verran, I need this Apache flight ready by 1400. Colonel's orders." His voice is flat, transactional. Then, without pausing, "And try not to screw it up this time." She's never once made a mistake, not once. But Stroud is already walking away, eyes locked on something else before she can respond. Verran rolls her sleeves up again in the now warm hangar air. On her upper arm, just beneath the uniform fabric, an old black and gold patch clings to the fabric. Its embroidery is intricate, its edges frayed by years of wear. Not many people would recognize it. Even fewer would understand what it meant. She usually keeps that patch hidden, always. But the desert doesn't care about secrecy. Heat swells by mid-morning, making sleeves feel like shackles. By now the hangar is alive. Pilots double-check flight plans. Crews swarm over aircraft. their voices mixing with the metallic rhythm of wrenches and the whine of tools. The air smells of jet fuel and hot steel, and Lieutenant Colonel Maddox Verran, still locked in on the Apache's chain gun, an island of quiet focus in a storm of movement. The clamor shifts when Major Cassian Rourke strides in, late, but carrying himself with the kind of respect that doesn't need to be demanded. His flight suit is a story in itself. Combat patches, special ops tabs, unit crests, each one earned in places most people never hear about. He moves like a man who's been under fire and walked away. He's halfway past Verran when something stops him cold. His helmet slips in his grip as his eyes lock on her rolled sleeve. The patch, black and gold. Faded, frayed, but unmistakable. He steps closer, voice low, almost drowned by the hangar's noise. Is that patch real? Verran doesn't even glance up. Her hands keep moving, reassembling a firing mechanism as if she hasn't heard. Then, after a pause so long it feels deliberate, she gives a single, almost invisible nod. Rourke sets his helmet down slowly, like a man approaching a dangerous animal. His tone changes, lower, more careful. Eagle Talon Division, he breathes. We're Talon? No answer. Her tools click and turn. That's not possible, he murmurs almost to himself. Talon operatives were all listed KIA after Samarand. This time she stops, looks up. Her eyes are older than her face, older than this base, older than this war. It's the kind of look that carries weight. Enough to stop a man like Cassian Rourke mid-sentence. He straightens without realizing it. I'll be discreet, he says quietly. And then after one more glance over his shoulder, he leaves. The hangar changes after that. It's subtle. Groups of officers in quiet conversations. Glances traded when they think she isn't looking. Veterans recognize the patch instantly. Some go pale. Others just grow quieter as though a ghost has stepped into the room. Across the hangar, Captain Kalen Stroud notices. His eyes track as a colonel he doesn't know walks in, flanked by two men in unmarked uniforms with the kind of posture you don't get from desk work. What's going on? Stroud asks a nearby lieutenant.
The younger man leans in, voice barely above a whisper.
That woman over there with the Apache? She's wearing a Talon patch. Stroud frowns. A what? Eagle Talon Division, the lieutenant explains. Most classified unit in Special Operations history. They went places even Delta wouldn't touch. Officially, they don't exist. Stroud lets out a short, skeptical laugh. She's just a tech. Been here for months. That's what makes it strange, the lieutenant replies, eyes fixed on Verran. If it's real, she's not a tech. She's a ghost. For the first time, Stroud feels a flicker of doubt. His gaze lingers on the woman he's ordered around for months. The one who's been quietly keeping multi-million-dollar systems in flawless condition. The one he's never once seen make a mistake. By late afternoon, the hangar settles into an unusual quiet, an almost unnatural hush under the hum of routine operations. Conversations are clipped, voices lowered to whispers. Eyes inevitably find their way to Lieutenant Colonel Maddox Verran, who works steadily on the Apache's chain gun as if the growing tension means nothing. Nearby, a cluster of young airmen who usually joke and banter loudly around the tool crib now stand unusually still. When Verran walks past to grab a calibration device, they straighten almost instinctively, barely aware of the shift in their own posture. The day closes with Verran still at her task, focused, seemingly oblivious to the silent storm swirling around her. She completes the reassembly with practiced ease, running a smooth function check on the weapon. Yet those paying close attention might catch a subtle change in her movements, sharper, more alert, muscles primed beneath the calm. The carefully maintained illusion of ordinariness is beginning to unravel. As she packs her tools, her eyes flick toward the hangar entrance. Two military police stand at attention, new arrivals unseen this morning. Her gaze falls on the patch barely visible beneath her sleeve. Without hesitation, she pulls the fabric down to cover it completely. She knows the quiet days are ending. The whispers will turn to questions. The questions will become orders. And what she has been preparing for, silently, patiently, relentlessly, will finally come to light. Late afternoon sunlight filters through the high hangar windows, slanting across the concrete floor in long, stretching shadows. Base Commander Colonel Everett Langford arrives, accompanied by his aide, ostensibly for a routine inspection. His weathered face betrays nothing, but his eyes lock immediately on Verran, busy at work on the Apache. Colonel Langford is no man to visit hangars without cause. His presence alone stiffens spines and lowers voices. He studies the patch on her arm, the faint black and gold glimmer barely visible beneath her sleeve, and leans close to whisper in his aide's ear. The aide nods sharply and hurries away. Verran does not pause her work, but the tension in her shoulders tightens, imperceptible but unmistakable. She feels the weight of eyes, the impending shift in the day's rhythm. Moments later, 3 military intelligence officers enter, exchanging brief words with Langford before moving to strategic posts near the exits. Though dressed in standard uniforms, they carry the aura of hunters, focused, alert, dangerous. The other personnel instinctively give the Apache a wide berth, sensing the charged atmosphere. Major Cassian Rourke approaches Colonel Langford, standing at attention before speaking in a hushed tone. "Sir, is it really her?" Langford's reply is measured but grave. "We're confirming now. The Pentagon's pulling the classified files. If this is genuine, it changes everything about Operation Sandstorm." Rourke's gaze shifts to Verran, voice low but intense. "If she is who that patch says she is, she should be running this base, not maintaining our aircraft." Langford's expression remains unreadable. "If she is who that patch suggests, Major, there's a reason she's not." Even the distant roar of aircraft on the tarmac feels muted, like the entire world is holding its breath. "Lieutenant Colonel Verran." Colonel Everett Langford's voice cuts through the silence, formal and steady. "The Pentagon confirmed your identity just 20 minutes ago." A collective gasp ripples through the crowd. The mechanics who had jeered earlier now stand stunned, their laughter gone cold. Captain Kalen Stroud, leaning near the tool station, pales noticeably. "Eagle Talon Division," Langford continues, his tone grave. "Operation Midnight Protocol. 7 confirmed Deep Shadow missions across 3 continents. 3 Congressional Medals of Honor, classified under presidential directive. The sole survivor of the Samarand incident." Each phrase weighs heavier on the hangar's air, pressing down like a storm ready to break. Veterans exchange silent, loaded glances. One master sergeant near the back instinctively raises his hand in salute, then quickly catches himself. "You were reported KIA 5 years ago, ma'am," Langford says quietly. The room holds its breath. Then, for the first time since the revelation, Verran speaks. Her voice is steady but rough, worn by years of silence. "Because dead women don't get asked questions. And I needed the quiet." Her gaze sweeps the hangar, locking onto every face, measuring every reaction. "I needed to disappear, to find out who betrayed my team." Langford's expression tightens. "Your team was ambushed during extraction. Intelligence suggests the leak came from within Talon itself." "Not within Talon?" Verran interrupts coolly. "From right here, inside this base." A murmur rises, uneasy and uncertain. "Vanguard wasn't operational 5 years ago," Langford says, confusion flickering across his face. The screen glows alive, displaying a map crisscrossed with troop movements and encrypted communication trails. "For the past 7 months," she says quietly, "I've been tracking encrypted transmissions moving through Vanguard's systems. Someone here has been leaking classified flight patterns and operational details to a private military corporation called Obsidian Hand." The weight of her words hangs like a noose tightening around the room. Major Cassian Rourke steps forward, voice low but urgent. "Obsidian Hand is a defense contractor," he explains. "They provide security for half our diplomatic missions overseas." Verran cuts in sharply. "They're also selling weapons technology to hostile states. My team uncovered their operation during a routine surveillance mission in Samarand," she continues, eyes fixed on the glowing map. "When we gathered enough evidence to bring them down, they eliminated us." A ripple of stunned silence crashes into a swell of controlled chaos. Senior officers gather tightly around Verran, hanging on every word as she points to patterns on the screen. Communications that align with compromised missions, silent warnings etched in data. Captain Kalen Stroud watches from a distance, his earlier arrogance replaced by shock, and maybe a hint of shame. The young mechanics who once mocked her now stand at rigid attention, whenever her eyes flick their way. "How did you survive, Samarand?" One of the intelligence officers finally asks. Verran's face darkens, shadows crossing her features. "I was separated from my team in the initial attack. By the time I fought back to the extraction point, they were gone." She hesitates, the weight of memory pressing down. "I found their bodies 3 days later." Silence falls like a shroud. "For 2 years, I operated in the shadows, officially dead, gathering intelligence on Obsidian," she says quietly. "When I traced their operation here, I requested transfer as a technician. Low profile," she adds, "with access to communications. Enough time to watch, to wait." Colonel Langford's eyes narrow. "And the Apache?" Verran's gaze sharpens. This isn't just any Apache. She gestures to the aircraft behind her. It's been fitted with a prototype. Hawkeye targeting system. Obsidian helped develop it. I've been modifying it to intercept and decrypt their secure communications. Slowly, Verran pulls the black and gold patch from beneath her sleeve. Holding it up under the harsh hangar lights, the insignia seems to swallow the light around it rather than reflect it. This patch should have never been seen, she says quietly. But since it has, she hands it to Rourke. The mission isn't over, she warns. They're coming. Who? Langford asks, though his expression already answers the question. The same people who killed my team. They've been hunting me for 5 years. She turns slowly toward the Apache, voice calm but carrying the weight of inevitability. And now, they've found me. Before the words can settle, a distant explosion ripples across the base, low and ominous. Alarms burst into life, sharp, urgent wails cutting through the afternoon air. That's the north perimeter, Colonel Everett Langford says without hesitation, already moving toward the communication station. All personnel battle stations. This is not a drill. In seconds, Vanguard shifts from routine to high alert. Officers shout rapid-fire orders, feet pound on concrete, and personnel race to their predetermined positions like clockwork. Through the storm of activity, Lieutenant Colonel Maddox Verran remains rooted by the Apache, watching the organized chaos with the steady gaze of someone who's faced worse and lived. Major Cassian Rourke returns to her side, breathless but focused. They hit us right at shift change. Maximum confusion, classic Obsidian tactic. Verran nods, eyes sharp. They're sending a primary strike team straight for this hangar. That Apache holds the only proof of their entire network. How many? Rourke asks. At least 20 operators. Former Special Forces, top-tier training, heavily equipped. He glances down at the patch in his hand, then back to her. No offense, ma'am, but one Talon operative in a hangar, full of support staff, won't hold off 20 elite mercenaries. For the first time, Verran allows herself a faint, knowing smile. You're right, Major. Reaching into her toolkit, she slides aside a false bottom to reveal a compact sidearm and a combat knife. Tools of survival in war. That's why we won't be here when they arrive. Night falls over Vanguard, cloaking the base in shadows. At the center of the storm, Verran commands with quiet authority. No longer invisible. The woman who had been ignored, dismissed, now holds the attention of every soldier and officer. The transformation is complete. The disguise shed like old skin. The ghost has returned to the world of the living, and she's brought a storm with her. Dawn spills amber and gold across the flight line. Verran stands tall, her posture confident, eyes sharp. Gone is the hunched silhouette of a maintenance tech. Her combat gear fits like armor, not just on her body, but around her very presence. The black and gold patch gleams proudly on her shoulder, no longer hidden, no longer a secret. The night had passed in a whirlwind of preparation. After the initial perimeter attack, Obsidian's forces had pulled back, regrouping somewhere out there in the desert. Intel confirmed they'd return at first light, reinforced and ready. The base had used the reprieve to strengthen defenses and evacuate non-essential personnel. From a distance, Captain Kalen Stroud approaches hesitantly. His usual confidence has faded, replaced by something closer to respect, almost deference. He stops a respectful few paces away, clearing his throat as if unsure where to begin. I didn't know, Captain Kalen Stroud begins, his voice rough, struggling with the weight of the moment. You weren't supposed to. Lieutenant Colonel Maddox Verran interrupts calmly, her tone steady but firm. That was the point. She lets the silence stretch before adding quietly, I treated you like... He searches for the words. Like I was invisible. That's exactly what I needed. Verran turns to face him fully, the rising sun catching the sharp angles of her face, revealing the steel, beneath years of careful camouflage. But not anymore. Stroud straightens, reclaiming his professionalism. What can I do? Verran studies him for a long beat, reading the man who stands before her. Your maintenance crews respect you, she says finally. I need them at their best today. Every aircraft we can get airborne gives us an edge. He nods, resolve replacing any lingering shame. You'll have them, ma'am. Stroud turns to leave, then pauses, voice softer. For what it's worth? I'm sorry. Save the apologies for later, Captain, she replies without looking back. We have work to do. Verran watches him go, then shifts her focus to the flight line where technicians run final checks on the combat helicopters. Major Cassian Rourke approaches, fully geared for flight. The Eagle Talon patch gleams on his shoulder, silent solidarity. That does not go unnoticed. Aircraft is ready, Colonel, he reports. He hesitates, then adds quietly, I flew 3 extraction missions searching for Talon survivors after Semarand. We never found anyone. You weren't supposed to, Verran replies. But I appreciate that you looked. The distant rumble of vehicles draws their attention. Colonel Everett Langford arrives in a Humvee, flanked by his intelligence team. His expression is grim as he steps forward. Satellite feed shows multiple assault teams converging on our position, he reports. ETA 15 minutes. We have 2 Apaches ready for immediate takeoff, Langford continues. 2 more can be airborne in 20. Verran shakes her head, nodding toward the Apache she's maintained for months. We only need 1. That's our ticket out of here. Out of here? Langford questions sharply. The Pentagon ordered us to hold position until reinforcements arrive. With respect, Colonel, Verran replies steadily. Reinforcements won't get here in time. Obsidian has too many resources, too many connections. The only way to end this is to get that data directly to CENTCOM. Langford's face tightens, unconvinced but unwilling to argue. You're talking about abandoning this base. Lieutenant Colonel Maddox Verran's voice is steady, cutting through the tension like a razor. I'm talking about completing the mission. The room tightens with silence. This isn't about Vanguard, she continues, eyes locked on Colonel Everett Langford. It's about exposing a network that's compromised our entire military intelligence apparatus. The weight of her words settles over them. Finally, Langford nods, resigned. What do you need? Inside the command center, Verran gestures toward the satellite imagery flickering on the main screen, red dots advancing steadily through the desert, closing in from every direction. They call themselves Obsidian Hand, she explains, a private military corporation that's infiltrated government contracts for decades. My team uncovered their secret, selling classified technology to hostile states. When we had enough evidence, they tried to wipe us out. She pulls up a schematic on the display. The Hawkeye system isn't just a targeting platform. It's the most sophisticated data collection system ever installed on a combat helicopter. Every transmission it intercepts is logged, encrypted. What Obsidian doesn't know, she says quietly, is that I've been using their own encryption keys against them. Suddenly, a deafening explosion shakes the building, closer this time. Dust rains down from the ceiling. They're here. The command center erupts into frantic activity. Colonel Langford snaps orders for defensive positions. Verran checks her weapon with practiced efficiency, then looks to Rourke. We need to get to that Apache now. They move fast through echoing corridors, the sound of gunfire growing louder with every step. Outside, Vanguard is under siege from all sides. Smoke billows from multiple buildings, flames licking the desert sky. Defense teams hold fortified positions, returning fire, but they are heavily outnumbered. Verran and Rourke reach the hangar to find it guarded by a squad of Marines, alert and tense. The Apache stands ready, systems humming, powered up by the ground crew. Situation? Verran asks the squad leader sharply. Enemy forces have breached the south wall. They're pushing hard toward this position. Hold them as long as you can, Verran commands, her voice sharp. Once we're airborne, fall back to secondary positions. The Marine squad leader nods sharply. Yes, ma'am. Without hesitation, Lieutenant Colonel Maddox Verran climbs aboard the Apache with Major Cassian, Rourke in the pilot's seat. Around them, the ground crew hustles, finishing last-minute preparations despite the danger closing in. You remember how to fly combat missions, Colonel? Rourke asks as they strap in. Verran allows herself the smallest, almost imperceptible smile. Some things you don't forget. The engines roar to life. The canopy seals tight around them, reinforced glass shielding from the chaos below. Outside, Marines take up defensive positions around the hangar entrance, steady and ready. Tower, this is Ghost 1, Rourke radios, voice calm but urgent. Requesting immediate takeoff clearance. Ghost 1, Tower, comes the clear reply. You are cleared for immediate takeoff. Good hunting. The Apache lifts smoothly from the concrete, ascending above the base. Below, the battle rages with brutal intensity. Enemy combatants, at least 50, storm the outer buildings, exchanging heavy fire with the defenders. They really want you dead, Rourke comments grimly as he maneuvers the helicopter away from the base. They want what's in this targeting system, Verran corrects quietly. My death would be just a bonus. As they clear the base perimeter, warning lights flash across the instrument panel. Surface-to-air missile lock, Rourke announces, voice steady. Deploying countermeasures. The Apache banks sharply, Flares burst from its underside, trailing bright fire as the missile veers off course and detonates, harmlessly far behind. "We've got company," Verran says, eyes sharp on the radar screen. Two unmarked helicopters approach fast, Obsidian air support. "Can we outrun them?" Rourke asks, already anticipating the answer. Verran switches to the weapon system controls. "We won't have to." The Apache swings to face the threat head-on. Through the targeting system, Verran locks onto the lead helicopter. "Ghost 1 to base," Rourke reports steadily. "We have engaged hostile aircraft. Proceeding with mission objective after neutralizing threat." "Copy that, Ghost 1," comes Colonel Everett Langford's voice over the radio. "Be advised, reinforcements are 30 minutes out." "We'll be back before then," Verran promises, voice unwavering. The targeting system emits a steady beep, confirming a solid lock-on. "Fire when ready," Verran commands, her voice calm but steely. The Apache trembles as missiles streak from its hardpoints, slicing through the crisp morning air. The lead enemy helicopter twists sharply, attempting desperate evasive maneuvers, but the lock is unbreakable. A brilliant explosion blossoms against the rising sun, painting the sky with smoke and fire. The second helicopter veers sharply, retreating fast, disappearing into the horizon. "They'll be back with reinforcements," Rourke warns, eyes narrowing. Verran's gaze hardens. "Then we better hurry." Her fingers dance across the controls, activating the specialized system she has spent months modifying in secret. The display floods with streams of encrypted data, routing a steady course towards CENTCOM's secure servers. "This data, we have to deliver it ourselves." As the Apache soars toward the golden horizon, Verran glances back once to the base that once dismissed her. The woman they ignored now commands the skies, a force reborn. Below, the battle rages on, fierce and unforgiving, but Verran knows the true fight has only just begun. 5 years hiding," she mutters under her breath, running final system checks. "Ends today." The helicopter surges forward, racing against time and closing threats alike. The black and gold patch on her shoulder catches. The sunlight, a silent emblem of a unit that officially never existed, worn by a woman declared dead long ago. Some heroes choose to live in the shadows. They bear the weight of secrets no one else can carry, sacrifices no one acknowledges. They never seek glory, even when they deserve it more than anyone. But when the moment demands it, they step into the light. They remind the world that the quietest among us often carry the heaviest burdens. Lieutenant Colonel Maddox Verran's time for silence has passed. The ghost has returned, not to haunt, but to finish what she started, to bring justice to the fallen, to expose those who betray their country for profit. And as the Apache fades into the distant sky, those who once ignored her stand in awe of her courage, her sacrifice, her unshakable commitment to a mission that never ended. If you felt the weight of Lieutenant Colonel Verran's story, her courage, her sacrifice, and the invisible battles fought behind the scenes, then don't just watch. Join us in honoring the silent heroes who protect us every day. Hit that subscribe button now to never miss a story that reveals the untold truths of our military. And share this video with someone who understands what real bravery looks like, because these are the stories that deserve to be remembered, and the heroes who deserve to be seen. Stay with us because the mission to uncover the truth has only just begun.